Welcome to this Tuesday edition of Bury Your Bookie. I'm Jeff DeForest. Of course, the postscript is ready as the Florida Gators win the national championship in a bloodbath of a basketball game. Many are saying that this was the greatest Final Four ever contested. You did have two close games, came down to the wire. Nail biters in the semifinal games as the Gators got by Auburn. And Houston knocked off in improbable fashion a team that we think was guilty of the biggest choke job this side of Mama Cass. I don't know. It may be too arcane of a reference, but we talked about it a little bit yesterday. Choking on a ham sandwich to check out, not the most favorable ways to go. Now, it turned out that was a story that ended up taking on its own legend. The woman, unfortunately, was doing a massive amount of drugs at 400 pounds and ended up snorting a couple of 8 balls of cocaine that led to a heart attack. But it makes for a better story if she choked on a ham sandwich. She's dead anyway, so what are we going to say? Not to disrespect or disparage those that have passed away and contributed greatly to society to the point where we actually recognize them on a degenerate gambling show years and years later. But Duke, straight up choke job against the Houston Cougars. And you might say the same thing about the Cougars in this contest last night, although there were some startling numbers, not the least of which was 4 fouls. Could that be possible? I missed a little bit of the first half. I got into the game a little bit late because I was out doing something. And then I come home and thinking, okay, I'm in there with a shot. I needed Houston to win my one bracket. Would have been the first lifetime bracket win for me after 73 plus years on the planet, probably doing this thing for 60 years or so. And finally would have come away with a victory and the pool of money. But if Florida won, I was going to be OOP, as they say in dog racing, out of the picture. And sure enough, they ended up prevailing. But the strangest number I saw, and we'll bring in Scotty M to talk about this, strangest number I saw on the game, Jay Billis sits down. I'm watching the ESPN postgame coverage. And Jay Billis sits down, and the first thing he says is, hey, I'm watching a fucking hockey game out there, and only 4 fouls called in the entire first half. 4 fouls in the entire first half of play. There he is, the handsome one himself, Scotty M. Who do you have some Florida Gator ties, by the way? Did you clean up on this ball game? Because Houston to win this thing, and unfortunately, it didn't happen. They're up 12, had many opportunities to just bury the Florida Gators. But I was talking about this discrepancy, Scotty M. 4 fouls totally called in the first half, and then did somebody from the Gambino crime family say, "Hey, what happened to Donaghy?" And they called 23 fouls in the second half, many of which went against the Houston Cougars. Got 2 of their big guys in foul trouble.
Yeah,
in their defensive strategies and the way they play the game, and all of a sudden, you got a parade of Gators to the stripe. They're knocking down free throws, and the dynamic of the game changed dramatically. I mean, did you pick up on that? And what did you think about the difference in the way the first and second halves were officiated?
well, I got to be honest with you. You know, these type of games, it seems like we saw some meltdowns on some good teams over the last few games. Houston, a commanding lead, looked like they were pulling away to start the second half. 5 minutes in, they run it up to a 12-point lead.
Yeah.
Before you blink, the game is like a dead even game. It's just amazing how the Gators have turned it on in the second half of these games. I don't know if it's the other teams just melting down on them and giving them those chances, but just an amazing run for the Gators to win. I had Houston in that game. I bought the line. You know how I am with the numbers. I bought the line at +3. So I loved Houston. That was a big play for us yesterday. Yeah, I mean, the officiating, there was some calls towards the end there, that travel, a couple other things. It turns these games around. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The what's the word I'm trying to say? The tide of the game.
Momentum, yeah. It definitely shifted. Yeah. All right. I mean, not to put the game totally on the officials, you have to wonder and ask yourself, Kelvin Sampson, Hall of Fame coach, largely was given credit as being, because of his experience versus Todd Golden, a huge advantage.
Yep.
And yet there was total chaos on the part of the Houston Cougars in the last 2 minutes of the game. They didn't even get a shot off, I believe, their last 3 or 4 possessions, including the last one where you had 20 seconds to go. You're only down 2.
Right.
The normal strategy would be to push the ball inside, to send the guy driving to the basket, or get it into a big man, force some kind of close range shot, maybe get fouled, maybe make it, maybe even get a 3-point play. But if you do miss and lose the rebound, at least you're still in the possibility of playing the foul line game and not being too far out of it. I mean, your situation might get increasingly more desperate, with each blown possession. But you would think they would go inside and take a shot with like 15, 16 seconds to go.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't understand the play call there. Obviously keeping the ball beyond the 3 point. They were moving the ball, further out. I would think they would want to drive to the basket. Hopefully, even if they don't make the shot, they get fouled with a shot, with an opportunity at least to have two foul shots and tie the game up with, like you said, under 20 seconds to go in the game. But it was just, kind of strange play calling there. For me, it was great because, the way the game ended, because I didn't want them to foul them with 1 or 2 seconds left.
Yeah.
And Florida makes two cheesy foul shots, and I end up losing the spread. But it worked out well for my situation. But yeah, I mean, the play calling, the meltdown. I thought Houston was controlling that game. I mean, pretty much they were controlling the game all the way until the very end, the last minute or so. Similar to the Duke game prior, where Duke was controlling the whole entire game, had a double-digit lead. In the last 45 seconds or 40 seconds of the game, they get outscored 9-0. I mean, that's not like Duke basketball right
No.
there. This was similar like with Houston. It wasn't like Houston basketball, where Houston had a 12-point lead with that defense all year long. It was amazing. I mean, probably one of the best defenses, if not the best in the country. And to let the Gators back in, like that, making some mistakes, and like you said, doing some not the right play calling when you have a 12-point lead. Maybe they take their feet. They took the foot off the gas pedal, which was not the right thing to do in a circumstance like that, because the Gators took full advantage of it. You saw that, and they came right back like a split second, and that game was from a 12-point game was a dead even game within a few minutes.
Yeah, it was so hard for me to watch with my interest in Houston. Of course, the under players were dancing in the street the entire game, but the discrepancy in the officiating one half to the other, I thought, I mean, it wasn't
It was
suspicious
the
or
Tim
anything.
Donaghy days. You thought it was the Tim. You got a little flashback of
Yeah, I
Donaghy.
thought maybe, somebody made a call to one of the officials outside the locker room on the payphone that hangs there by the wall in the catacombs of the
I have a
stadium and said, "Hey, you better start calling something. Put the whistle and take it out of your pocket."
A buddy of mine who's pretty knowledgeable at sports. We had a conversation about this after the Duke game. He thinks some of these games are scripted almost. He thinks it's like, they play them to a certain point, and then they allow, all of a sudden it becomes like a soap opera more
Yeah.
than a game. It's almost like they're making it go that way. Similar in this one last night. I mean, think about it. Dominate. Houston was controlling the game first half.
Was in the
They
bag.
second half up double digits, and all of a sudden the last couple of minutes, it just falls apart again. All these big games fell apart in the last minute or two.
Yeah, and people are calling this the greatest Final Four ever. You're probably a much more astute and bigger college basketball fan, as much as I am a fan of college basketball and basketball in general.
Yeah.
But you've probably studied this more deeply. Is it fair to say that because you had three tightly contested games, that this was the greatest Final Four ever? Or I mean,
Well,
there's certainly been more dramatic victories, more artistic victories
right, right.
in the championship game, and even in some of the preliminary games in the semifinals. But you're always thinking that whatever you saw last was going to be the one that you gave the credit for being the best. But I don't know. Did you feel that way?
I mean, to say it's the greatest. I mean, I
Yeah,
think that's
it's kind of tough.
overkill. Yeah. I mean, that's overkill. Listen, we called chalk right from day one. I called it before the tournament was going to be a chalky tournament. I figured the number one teams were just a class above the rest of them. I said it right from the get go. I thought Duke would win the whole thing. I really felt they'd at least get to the final game, which they should have got there. But listen, the wheels fell off, like you said, in the last 40 seconds to get outscored 9-0. A Duke team that pretty much knows what they're doing at that point in time in any games. For them to lose that game was pretty wild. And even Houston, like I said yesterday, So, I mean, yeah, it was a great tournament. And obviously, when you get all the number one seeds, the better teams playing against each other to determine the champion. I mean, I could see the category of being one of the best of all times, but to say the greatest of all times, no, I can't. I can't put it as the greatest.
Yeah, game was a little too sloppy and ugly for me to consider that one of the great finals
I
of all
thought
time.
one of the greatest runs this year in college basketball was the UConn women's team. The way they
Yes.
totally just dominated the women's bracket coming out of nowhere. I mean, they had a tremendous season, but Paige Beckers took that team on her shoulders, and a lot of motivation there. There was something going on there with a lot of motivation that UConn just took off like a rocket ship and just exploded to beat everyone in their path. They won one game by over 70, the next game by over 30. Beat the number one. Obviously, they lost their key player, USC, but they still won by 14. They were 15-point favorite, and in the final game, I mean, they win easily. It wasn't even close. Don Staley, who's an unbelievable coach, college women's basketball, going for a three-peat with South Carolina. It was like day and night. UConn women's team. That to me that could have been one of the greatest runs, domination-wise, winning every game by double digits, no one even close to them.
Was one of the rare times that I was correct about something because
Like,
being a
like,
decent
like
scout of basketball, I saw this UConn team towards the end of the regular season, and I thought, who's going to beat these guys, man? Gino's going to do it again.
yeah,
So, yeah, they
12
managed
titles.
to win their 12th title. That was pretty incredible. And he's 12-1 in the championship game, and this wasn't even a contest. It was a
No,
bludgeoning,
it was,
right? Pretty much from the outset, it was garbage time.
and
Uh,
they couldn't even move that line high enough if they wanted to. I said, if as long as this line is under double digits, you got to take UConn no matter what the factor is because of the domination and the way they were winning. It went 5.5, it went to 6, 6.5, 7.5. It didn't matter what they were moving that line to. They could have moved it up to 8.5. It wasn't a factor at all. That team was just on a course to win that championship big time.
yeah, that's strong. Was also an excellent player and good supporting cast all the way around. So yeah, Gino Emeryema. I mean, people are talking
Dynasty,
about him possibly being the greatest coach of all time, any sport.
yeah.
With those championships in the bank, you would have to say he's certainly worthy of some consideration there. All right, what are we going to turn our attention to? You got about 5 games left in the NBA, 4 or 5 games for a lot of teams. There's going to be juxtaposition, especially in the West, much more to be defined and determined in terms of seedings going into the playoffs. You have the NHL, the team that was favored to win the Stanley Cup, all of a sudden hitting a bit of a bump in the
Ooh,
road there, a speed bump, as the
yeah.
Florida Panthers, the defending Stanley Cup champions, also making a couple of big deals towards the trade deadline, getting Marchand and bolstering their roster all the way around on defense as well. And yet they're in the skids right now. 5-game losing streak. They did have one overtime loss, so 0-4-1 in their last 5, while other teams are rising to the occasion, like the Toronto Maple Leafs. Is it possible they break that jinx that goes all the way back to Andy Bathgate? What will be the focus of Scotty M's and your staff's concentration over the next few days? And Major League Baseball, of course,
Well, it's funny.
is underway with a few indicators early on.
It's funny you say that because I was just talking about on our show recently. The NHL. There's about 10 teams right now that have a really strong chance to win the cup. It's not wide open at all this year. I think it's going to be great. The playoffs are going to be dynamite. Like you said, you got teams right now that are red hot, like Toronto, who have won 4 straight games in a row, 8-1-1 in their last 10, going against the Panthers, who just out of nowhere scratch your head with the Panthers. Lost 5 straight games in a row. They were playing really well at one point. All of a sudden now they can't find a way to win a game. They're playing against each other tonight down here. They're making Toronto a $1.20 favorite in this game. I mean, Toronto's playing excellent right now. You got teams like the Las Vegas Golden Knights playing well. Winnipeg's been playing well all year. Washington playing well. Dallas, LA Kings. I mean, I can name, like at least a good solid 10 teams. So I think the Stanley Cup playoffs in the NHL this year is going to be phenomenal. Panthers going to have a bullseye on them. They're going to have to be on their A-plus game to get back to that Stanley Cup Finals because you got Tampa Bay playing excellent. They won easily last night, going into MSG and winning 5-1. Just a lot of good teams out there right now, Defo. So the playoffs in the NHL, I think, is going to be exciting, more so maybe than the NBA. I'm looking at a couple of things tonight as far as the NBA. I guess I could start with hockey. I think Toronto is definitely the right side of this game, the way they're playing against the Panthers. Panthers right now, I don't know if it's just injuries or lack of some confidence, losing a little confidence in what's going on there. But you got a team in Toronto that's won 4 straight that probably wants to stay on that high to finish the season off going into the playoffs, knowing they may face up against the Panthers down the road. So I'm going to take Toronto as a play tonight in the NHL. I'll lay the 115, 120 on the money line on that game. I didn't really see much else in the NHL for tonight. As far as basketball, this time of the year, guys, I always tell my guys, stay away from these matchups that are meaningless. There's no reason to try to find crappy teams, and think that you're going to have the right numbers on them because they've been bad all year. Why chase after them in the last couple of games? I mean, you can't be that desperate to chase, bad teams trying to play for you, like games like New Orleans and Brooklyn, stuff like that, meaningless games. Try to find games that have a little meaning to them. Like tonight, you got Atlanta and Orlando. This is an interesting game. They're both going to be in the playoffs. The number on the game's 3.5. Both teams playing pretty decent of late. I'm going to take Atlanta in this game. I like Atlanta, I think, on the road. But I'd buy this line. I would adjust it up to plus 4.5 against Orlando. I think Atlanta can match up well enough with Orlando as a live dog. So I'm going to take Atlanta plus 4.5 in that game. That's another play I like. Have you been watching the baseball lately, Defo? You see anything? I mean, it's only 10 games in.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know that I've seen any definitive trends. You are looking at the National League West out there. Kind of exciting to see the Dodgers actually in third place with a 9-3 record. That's
Yeah.
somewhat of a surprise. San Francisco playing well. Yankees hitting home runs all over the place. Everybody loves that home run prop bet.
Yep.
I mean, I would imagine that that's getting a lot of attention. The torpedo bats.
Yeah.
And the Mets bullpen has been really strong, including in a game last night against the local team here, the Miami Marlins, who have already eclipsed what I thought their season-long win total should have been by winning 5 games. I thought they were going to be horrendous this year, but sometimes you see that where a team of complete unknowns, the old Bob Dylan syndrome, ends up at least getting off to a reasonable start. Last year they were buried and had one of the horrendous starts in baseball history. Going back to maybe Frank Robinson when he was a manager of the Orioles and they lost their first 21, 23 games, something like that.
Yeah.
They were awful last year at the beginning of the season, so maybe an encouraging sign. But Mets bullpen pretty prominent so far. They're allowing nothing and posted a series of zeros in a ball game last night. And maybe I don't know. It's supposed to be freezing in New York today. They moved the time of the game up. I don't
Yes.
know what the over/under total is in that game, but you would be
Seven
tempted
and
to
a
bet
half.
the under
7.5.
7 and a hook. Yeah, I mean the ball's not going anywhere in that atmosphere. So
And you got two pretty decent pitchers, Gillespie and pitching against Holmes. They both had pretty decent starts, even though they lost their
yeah,
starts. They didn't allow many runs. So yeah, like you said, with the weather conditions, yesterday was snowing in Detroit with the Yankees. The Cubs, they had a total of 5.5. I never seen a total in a baseball game, even with the best pitchers in the world going against each
yeah,
other. 5.5 total on a regular season game. 5.5. They won 7-0. The Cubs are a surprising, pretty decent team right now. They,
yes,
they've been playing red hot of late. San Francisco obviously got off to their big start. They won a bunch of games in a row. They did lose last night. I'm looking at a game today. I'm going to jump on Baltimore against Arizona again. I had them last night as a strong play at Baltimore. They got the job done as a plus 110 dog. I like them in this spot tonight against Arizona. You get two pitchers that are not pitching well. But, Kelly had a good first start. He got rocked in his last start. His ERA in the first 2 games is 10. Morton has got an ERA of over 9 in his first. He's 0-2. But I think Baltimore, is a more solid type of team. I think they can put up the runs more so than the Arizona's. Could be a high flying team as well. But I like Baltimore in this spot as a dog. They're plus 105, so I'm going to take Baltimore tonight against Arizona to win that second game of that series. They won it last night for me. I'm looking at them to come back tonight and win it again. So I'm going to jump on Baltimore plus 105. That's about it for me as far as
nice. Nice job, Scotty M. You're all over the place. I mean, really, the research is pristine, and you covered all the bases, literally, including baseball and hockey, NBA. Great stuff, Scotty
I
M.
love this time of the year, Defo. I got to be honest with you. From a sports betting standpoint, I love the NHL playoffs. I love that second season because the intensity level. A lot of these teams right now, very physical. Teams. I could see, like I said, I see a good 10 teams that have a shot at the cup at least, maybe even more at this point. But at least 10 off the top of my head that I think can battle for that Stanley Cup. So I think it's going to make the excitement level, unbelievable. This year for the playoffs. And, like I said, the NBA, I'm looking forward to that as well. And you got baseball, a new season. I'm looking at teams. I'm trying to, get my gauge here on certain teams. I'm following another matchup that looks interesting tonight. Probably the biggest surprise not doing as well is this Atlanta Braves team starting out
Yeah.
so terrible. They're playing Philadelphia tonight. Great matchup. Wheeler and Sale on the mound. I think Philly will beat Atlanta tonight. I just think right now that this Atlanta team trying to find themselves. I think Philadelphia is just a little bit more put together at this point in time. I like Wheeler in this spot against Sale. They're minus 105 Philly. So I'm going to jump on Philadelphia in that game minus the 105. I think they can continue their winning ways until Atlanta finds their way.
Oh, we kind of lost Scotty M there at the moment of truth. But there he is. He made it back in. So going with Atlanta. Now, like I said, you need a little guidance in this thing, and you want it from guys that are doing it in a grassroots, serious type of fashion, not just up there. You don't see Scotty M wearing a red nose and big floppy shoes or running around like a maniac screaming and yelling. How can people take advantage of your services?
Everything we do is on social media. We go live every day now at 11:15 a.m. on Instagram, 11:15 Eastern, and we come back sometimes at 5:30. So we're doing live shows, giving you guys some extra insights and stuff like that. Come to my Instagram channel. That's the best way. Free stuff up all the time. Special offers. Yesterday we had a huge offer for $14. Put out a 50-unit play on the championship game, and we had a big play on Baltimore last night. So we went 2-0, so everyone cashed in on that. But the best way to find us is on Instagram, SM Sports Picks, Picks, with the blue check mark on top. Make sure you see the verified blue check mark. That shows you it's us. And you don't want to be going to someone else that's saying it's us. So check the blue check mark at the top. When you see it, you'll know it's our page, SM Sports Picks. We got some free stuff going up there today. And that's it, Defo.
Very nice job all the way around. Always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much for getting up and joining us here on this edition of Bury Your Bookie. Scotty M, ladies and gentlemen.
Have a great
Scotty
day.
Here on the show. All right, we will be back tomorrow. Troy West, who's been on fire. This guy's got some kind of a wild streak going. I'm hoping it's still intact. I spoke with him about it, I guess, last week. He was talking about some ridiculous number that he had, where he's winning like 4 out of 5 games and plays that he's given out on his service. So he'll be joining us tomorrow. Until then, you guys enjoy a deep breath after the NCAA basketball tournament. Provided a lot of spark, even if it didn't provide a lot of upsets and Cinderella-type stories. Still, at least hotly contested games, and games that may come into question in terms of bizarre discrepancy in officiating first half to the second half in that championship game. Not blaming the refs. Florida, I think they earned it. But nonetheless, that was a little strange to see 4 fouls total in the first half. And then, of course, in a short span, Houston's 2 big guys get in foul trouble. They have to go to the bench. Smaller guys come in. Gators start going inside, chop the lead down to next to nothing. Eventually take the lead late in the ball game and hang on and win. All right, we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I'm Jeff DeForest for Bury Your Bookie.